And we're back.
Welcome back to Beyond the Signs podcast.
I'm your co-host, Omar Hamouda.
And I'm your fellow co-host, Kiera Lee.
And today's topic is sort of because like we were hearing the news and all that and like talking about like how the monkeypox is the next COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was the topic that we suggested was if we do have another pandemic or another lockdown, what would we do differently creatively?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when the pandemic happened back in 2020. I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was thriving because I was able to like get a lot of work done creatively and like also like just hone on different skills that I never knew that I had. Also, like
You were taking courses, right?
yeah,
Online?
like different courses and stuff like that. Not because not because I was bored. It was just I was interested to learn and stuff. But
And you finally had the time.
oh yeah, definitely. So like 2 weeks. No, it was like about like a couple months too.
2 weeks, yeah. It was like
No, 2 weeks was the lockdown. But
Well-
like the restriction, I didn't leave my house. I remember this, right?
lockdown lasted a while.
Well, the lockdown, I think it was like a month, and then people were able to go out and stuff. I didn't leave my house until like the end of May.
I think it was like 2 months. 2 months solid
2 months?
lockdown, yeah.
Because I remember,
Because we went into lockdown in March. I remember the first thing that opened, in New Jersey at least, was restaurants. And that opened in May.
okay, I remember leaving my house like the end of May towards the beginning of June, only because I was moving. That was the only reason why I left.
Yeah. No, I barely left in that time too.
Right. So,
Crazy.
what would you do differently, creatively?
I think it's interesting because how you were saying you were thriving during like lockdown and COVID and things like that. We have contrasting perspectives here to dive into because I was definitely not thriving creatively. At the beginning, I tried to. I set up like an indoor home studio and like tried to do a couple shoots and, you know, maintain that creative flow, maintain the, you know, the amount that I'm shooting per week, like just try to like shoot regardless of being locked inside. But that honestly didn't last very long. And, you know, what's weird though, after lockdown, you know, after we got out of lockdown and we started to kind of go back into things, I bounced back pretty strong, I felt like, for a good portion of 2020. Honestly, I felt like it was a delayed reaction for me creatively because I feel like going into 2021 was when I really started to feel that creative rut that I believe resulted from COVID and just resulted from being disrupted in that way creatively by just, you know, being forced to be at home or, you know, even if things were open, just like, you know, I lived with my parents at the time. So it's like not going out too much anyway, regardless. So like I wasn't going to the city and shooting like I was before. So, you know, it was a delayed reaction, but it definitely affected me in not the best way. And I would definitely do some things differently now, but I want to hear.
So like before
Your
that,
view
because
on
I
this.
want to,
Yeah.
I want to know like at least 5 things that you would do different.
Okay. First, I would just not stop shooting. I think my biggest regret is that not regret, because I don't regret anything. Take that back. My biggest, like the point that I would learn from the most with this is to just keep shooting regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you're shooting, regardless of whether you can use that for anything in actuality. Just not letting your camera collect dust on the shelf. You know, I think that was my biggest mistake there. But it was hard because it was hard to maintain that motivation when, you know, everything was so back and forth with things being open, things being closed, not wanting to go into the city and, you know, kind of getting back into that travel mode of doing gigs farther away again and traveling and going and being in the city and things like that. I definitely I think would have maintained that motivation and that inspiration better if I would have just kept shooting regardless of what it was. So I think that's one thing for sure. Man, there's so many different things that could go into it. Not letting social media deter you from anything, because I think also with the pandemic, obviously we all know how the algorithm works. You know, if you're not working constantly, that means you're not posting past a certain point constantly and as frequently as you used to when we were working, you know, nonstop. So not posting for a while changes your engagement, right? So once it got to a certain point, my engagement was changing so much throughout that period of time that it started to deter me from wanting to go out and plan and execute shoots and be in that creative headspace, because I was just so caught up in like, wow, my, you know, engagement isn't what it used to be and my, you know, posts aren't performing like this or that. I would say that was another big mistake that I made, was just caring too much about that stuff. For sure. So, I mean, I could go on and on, but I want to hear also what you have to say about this, because
Right. So
we definitely have different views on how that went for us and like how we got through it.
So let me be clear what I mean by thriving. I wasn't like saying like,
no, I understand
like,
what you mean, but you can.
Yeah. Like literally the first 2 weeks of like lockdown, I ended up getting COVID.
I remember.
For like 4 days, and then it just went away. But like,
well, I mean, your symptoms, yeah.
My symptoms went away, but like I still had it, and I still was locked in. But what I decided to do was differently, was sit down, and every day was to do something new, right? Whether it be editing a TikTok video at the time. Like I remember me and my brother, like it's funny because like my brother is the one who like pushes me to do different things. Like when it was first Instagram, he's like, yo, you should go into Instagram because you know how to take photos, right? And then TikTok, he's like, yo, you should make videos because you know how to make videos.
Yep.
And I'm like, damn it, how do you know these things, right? So like,
what do you mean? How do you know these things? Those
are
the two
like
basic things of like.
No,
who
but he
you
had
are.
like it's funny because he has this weird intuition. Like he's like, you should do that,
right?
And it ends up being like what I should actually do, right? It's not like
he's looking out for you. Yeah, he knows.
Yeah. So I remember we were doing like some different. We were gonna do this page called Ham Bros, because like we're technically we're the Ham Bros, right?
Right.
But it was such a funny name.
I
and
haven't heard you say that in a long time. I remember you like told me about that a while ago. And
yeah. So like we actually did
it.
like a couple of videos, and like we were gonna post them, but like one, like he was busy with school, and two, like I was still doing other stuff. Like for example, like building my portfolio up for not just photography, but also my like design capabilities, whether it be in architecture, web design, and like all that stuff, like to show that I'm actually a creative person, right? Not only that, I was working on understanding how to do live streams, and like working like every night doing like
for what purpose?
Games. Like I was doing
okay.
like, if you see like some of the videos on Facebook, it's literally just me like working on like actually doing different like videos for like what's it called, just live streaming and gaming and stuff like that. Like every night I would have someone new to hop on. Like I Skyped them in and they came on. I only had 3 guests because I only did 3 videos. Right. But, and then the other one is that I was challenging a friend of mine to like, I'm going to beat the game within 24 hours. I didn't last long. But like, it was stuff like that that kept me going, and I was like literally thriving from it and all that stuff. And I remember like, at the time, like I was still freelancing. So like I was able to still do freelancing work, but remotely from home. Like I didn't even have to leave my house to keep doing work. I was doing the work I love doing at home.
Right.
So like I'll say like the 5 things for me, what I would do differently. One is focus on making more video content, like video content as in like, sort of like whatever it is, like whether it be YouTube or like whatever. Cause I have a channel of mine, like my own channel.
Yes. Yeah. I know.
Surprisingly,
you posted a couple times on it.
I only post like 6 videos, but I kid you not, I'll get a comment every single day.
No
like
way.
Ever since the last time I posted probably a year ago. And I still get comment every so like I looked at the video, like keep in mind I only had 38 or 39 subscribers, but I have one of my videos hit like 4,000 views.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I was like, when the hell did this happen?
Right.
So I was like, maybe like keep working on that, you know?
Yeah.
The other, because I'm locked home, I'm not going anywhere. The second thing I would actually do is improve my health, as in like being sure to like actually eat properly. Because like I do eat properly now, and I'm on this thing called the 2-week burnout, which is basically work out for 6 days a week for the next 2 days on like different body groups. Crazy. But like
it serves a purpose. I
exactly.
know.
It's supposed to, one, help me get into that like whole health and like fitness fit. So that way, like the next 2 weeks, I'm on a 3-day schedule rather than a 6-day schedule, and do it like it's recommended to do it every 3 months.
Right.
Because it's not good to do it. So like the first week of that pandemic, you better believe that I'm on that 6-day, what's it called? Burnout.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole thing should be a burnout. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, no. No, that definitely, like, I totally agree with the health aspect. That's another thing that I would absolutely say I wish I did differently. Not only was I, I had just turned 21, so I was drinking a lot during the beginning of lockdown. Like, there was nothing else. I was playing video games and just making a cocktail. And like looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, I tried to exercise like a month and a half into it. I would say I started to, or maybe even a month into it. But before that, I really just it was like a free for all where I just like ate what I wanted, drank what I wanted, didn't really give regard to my health for those few weeks because I was just like,
everyone's like locked down, like
doing
my mom's cooking. I'm like, bet
right
food.
Yeah, and it was like, I was by myself with Matt, and so we just would make food a different meal every night that maybe was healthy or wasn't healthy, and we didn't care at all. Right. And yeah, that's definitely something I would do differently, especially now, like where I am now in my fitness and health journey. I look back on it and I'm like, wow. I mean, I was still like vaping too, like all that stuff. It all combined into just like making me more tired, more anxious, less energy. All these things put together, I think, also definitely impacted me creatively regardless. I mean, I think thinking about where our headspace was at the time too, right. It's important to think about all this stuff.
And then the third thing I would actually do is actually organize my thoughts in like all my projects and all like things in general. Just start to organize, because like you're in this lockdown and it's like there's nothing to do. Start organizing, because I know my computer is a mess with different files and like my equipment's all over the place. So like I like that would be like one of the first steps actually that I would do. But
you didn't, or did you?
No, that's the third thing that I would
do differently.
Yeah, because
I actually did that. That's the one thing that I did. I organized every particle of my space, because there was nothing else for me to do, and I like hyperfixate on. I get into cleaning mode and I just don't stop for hours and hours. So.
Yeah, so that's something I would do differently. The fourth thing is like literally, well, I do it now, which is shut myself off from social media. I don't want to see anything, but maybe like an hour in the morning just to hear the news, just to know where everything's going, but not fixate on it like 24/7, because like I'm seeing other people like how they're like going through the pandemic. It was fun, like I'm not gonna lie, like while like in the pandemic, but I realized that like most of my days, because we were all locked in, we were spending way too much time on TikTok, and that was dangerous. And that's why like I'm off it, so I don't like get fixated on it. But like that would be the other thing. The fourth thing for me is just to make sure that's kept at bay.
Absolutely. I definitely, I think social media helped me. Like after the pandemic, I stopped posting as much as I was before, which definitely was better for my health and everything in between. But in terms of social media in a creative way and thinking differently as an entrepreneur, I wish I would have started on TikTok at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yep.
And I actually posted on TikTok, like while it was fresh, while people were just like blowing up left and right and left and right. Yes, it still happens today, but it's definitely gotten like that. The app itself has gotten so saturated, like we've talked about in the past. It's gotten so saturated now that it is harder than it absolutely was, you know, when it was still fresh in 2020 to easily, I guess, like blow up or gain recognition on TikTok. And I wish I would have taken advantage of that earlier to start posting things related to our creative content and things like that at the time.
And the last and final thing I would do personally, which I did, but I want to do more of, is to actually just relax and have fun.
Yes, that's something
because it's not always just about work. It's I'll never forget, like I remember Final Fantasy Remake number 7 came out, like I think it was on April 10th, and because everyone's stuck, they decided to drop it a day early. I kid you not, a week straight on that game, I ended up like in PlayStation they call it platinum in the game, which is basically winning all the trophies. And if anyone out there knows what like what's it called, PS trophies, you know how hard it is to platinum a game. But I was able to platinum. It was like one of the first games that I felt so accomplished. But like that's what I would do. Like, yeah, I know it sounds counterintuitive. Well, you're playing video games, but like it's a way for me to like unwind, and like I love playing video games, you know?
Absolutely. We played a ton of Fortnite and GTA over at our house for like the whole time.
I can argue why like I don't like any of those gun games at all. Not because it's violent and stuff like that, but like they're so repetitive.
Oh yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Fortnite. GTA I can get behind because it's not just guns, it's cars. It's cars and like storyline and people interacting with people, missions that you go on, whatever. But yeah.
The only like GTA game I've ever played was like I think Venice or
oh yeah,
it was the fourth one I think, which was on the computer, and I remember like it was like a Miami setting, but like they couldn't call it Miami, of course. Vice.
Yes.
It wasn't Venice, it was Vice.
Because I was gonna say you can't call it Venice either.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, as weird as it is, yeah, video games definitely can help. I mean, personally, I feel like I got sucked into it too much at the beginning of the pandemic and I played too much video games. That would be something that I personally would do differently, is not play as much video games. I definitely wish I would have fueled different creative outlets more, like painting or drawing or, you know, just playing guitar, like doing different things that I always took the time to do in high school and things like that. But as you get older, you know, you prioritize like what you want to be your career, obviously. And with the pandemic, I feel like that was the perfect opportunity to step back and kind of fuel those creative outlets that you don't normally give that much attention to.
Right.
So that's something I would do differently. I painted a little bit. I painted like my bedside table and repainted it. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I wish I would have done that more for sure.
Right. And since we're getting closer to the end, I don't know if this is an outside pocket question, right? But we're talking about the pandemic. In your personal opinion, do you think we're going to get another one?
I mean, that's a very hard question. I think the same thing could happen again. I think something similar could happen again. Is that like a coincidence? I don't know. But I think, you know, happened once. It could definitely happen again. No, before this, nobody thought that this would really ever happen. Like this just wasn't really like a thought in anybody's minds. So I feel like it's definitely now more so than ever. Something that you never know. You know what I mean? If COVID has taught you anything, it's taught you that you never know.
Yeah, you never know if you don't know. And with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you like what you listen to, subscribe down here and hit the bell for notifications to know when we do post. Our social media proofs are up here. Instagram Twitter, and Facebook.
Lovely.
But I'll be honest, like I think there is going to be another pandemic. And honestly, when it does happen, I'm thriving, baby.
Doing things differently this time.
Absolutely.
And with that, we will see you guys for the next episode.
See you later.